broke the backup generation when we lost electricity at the police station, and the generator malfunctioned. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Okay. So as our command center for a major natural event happening, was basically power. It occurred to me that we needed to get additional equipment there that included a generator for the police department. A parking program, much talked about, not so much action over the past several years. We have people coming and visiting our beaches, loading up their coolers, walking down to the beach, having a great day, not spending any money locally, and driving back home in the evening. Any other community, including Plymouth, if you work through the South Coast, you're going to find that there's a parking program. This includes all of the equipment that will be needed to set up the onset pier and CW Bishop parking lot as a parking program to bring in additional revenue to the town and should pay for itself in short order. Item D, prisoner transport vehicle. You may or may not, if you pick up the newspaper, see that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is getting out of the judicial complex business. They're consolidating courts, and Wareham District Court is on the chopping block. It's one of the most busiest courts in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I did a quick analysis of information that I got from the administration of the court system that goes something like this. Over the past 3 years, our domestic violence cases that come from Wareham to the district court are up 38%. And that's just one area of activity that we need to pay attention to. It's a very, very important program. If they close that courthouse, we're going to have to transport people to Plymouth or some other place, and that's why that vehicle is on the capital plan. As well as a four-wheel drive vehicle for once again, staying in the public safety team and giving the police department the tools to do their job. That's item E. Item F, I spoke to a little bit. The state has come in and revoked a license to operate some of our ambulances because of their woeful condition. This is a rebuild of an ambulance that is required if we're in the ambulance business, we ought to have the appropriate equipment to do the job. Buses, been talked about. You know, I may not get many Christmas cards on this one, but I'm willing to take the risk of saying that we need to take action and move forward. The most recent report by the Transportation Department indicated they needed about 20 or 25 buses. We need to be in the bus. If we're in the child transportation business, we have to have safe buses, in my opinion, and that's why the buses are on as a start program to get buses replaced through this capital plan. And that's pretty much an explanation of all of the items on the list. We did choose, you might see some items that say lease, some items say capital purchase. We're looking to get the best bang for our dollar. In many cases, it's easier, for instance, for police cruisers. We rack up about 150,000 miles on our cruisers over a 3-year period. Leasing is the best way to go, in my opinion, because then you know what, it's time to replace that cruiser. It's no longer safe to be in the service of the town. Chief, would you like to add anything to this, or just kind of say something?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief. That's it, Madam Maria.
Thank you. One of the things, maybe Matt can scroll up a little bit, one of the improvements that I think that we have made, and maybe you had a chance to pick up one of the guides in the back, is that we've actually come up with a process for submitting warrant articles, both for department heads and for petitioners. And hopefully this will be another way of trying to improve how we can better prepare for town meeting so that we come out of the gate with the preparation of the and motions, which is helpful not only to administration but to the finance committee as they go through and they try their recommendations. They have an explanation from the department head or the department or whoever is submitting the article, which is helpful to them in preparing and getting ready. So, okay. So hopefully some of these things that we're changing a little bit will better prepare us for town meeting. Has anybody had, on Article 1, my intent would be, because there are different line items, to go through like we would do the budget and take each line item separately so that they can be discussed separately and handle it in that manner. I think that that would be an easier way to do it for everyone, and that would be my intent on Article 1. Mrs. Slayton?
As you discussed, will they be voted on, or will it wait until the whole article is ready to be voted on?
We probably vote on them
As we
individually.
discussed. So it isn't all or nothing.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions on Article 1?
You're gonna put it back up there again?
What's that?
I said you're gonna put it back up.
Oh, yes. Working.
I got a question and an observation. An observation first. It would be nice if you totaled all that stuff up there, because in your explanation, there is no number, it's a sum. How much is it? I don't carry a calculator with me, I don't want to tell people that doesn't even work with cell phone.
Actually, it's up to $460,000. In the Finance Committee report and recommendation, one thing that you will have this year, they will actually be making a pro and con recommendation, and they will alert you to what the actual figures are going to be in total figures.
What's the source of revenue? Was it all going to be the same, or is it going to come from different spots?
The source of, because free cash has not been certified in any city or town, that's good for you, Madam Moderator. We are looking to build this in the fiscal 2013 budget as a contingency. I'll put it into my plan that I will file in December, looking for approval. And as you can see, and it's a very good point, some of the items of capital outright purchase, some of them are first year or leased. And we did break out an extensive format for both the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen. A worksheet of each one, which will be happy to bring the town meeting so people can look at it. Because once again, we're trying to get the best bang for our dollar, whether it's a leasing arrangement or it would be an outright capital purchase. So that is the first, that's a contingency. Certified free cash will have sometime in late November, early December. We'll be able to tell at that point whether or not we can use some of those dollars as one-time expense dollars to get the capital plan funded in fiscal 2012. If that's not the case, we will put in fact in my budget going forward the items that are listed and hopefully approved for fiscal 2013 beginning July 1st.
Last question. That parking program, is that going to be done by the town, or is that going to be private contractor?
No, it's going to be run by the town. It will be run by the town. It will be run by the police department. Which are currently, right now, just real quick, because we can moderate, you can tell them. Right now, there's a person in the blue with a cash register that's going, morning, noon, and night. And if you look at this, people are pulling into the MBTA parking lot or Mass General, you pull a ticket, you spend whatever time where you have to go, and go and pay the cashier. This will be an automated system where people can come and go and actually pay by credit card.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Ms. Heath?
I'm looking at what you're saying about tonight. The article itself says to borrow or transfer, which makes it valid line and free cash for use at that point. The actual motion is to borrow money. And I'm a little concerned that we go to town meeting with a motion as written. Because at that point, so we're going to be able to borrow money.
It seems to me that my experience would suggest that if you're going to appropriate money, you got to say where it's coming from.
We can fit that into the motion, and I'm sure we can make that modification.
Otherwise, you can take it out any draw you want.
But can I just also make a very important point? We've had starts and stops on capital planning. I see the chairman of the committee is here. We had a very 2.5-hour meeting this morning. It's not the time to start and stop, in my opinion. The time we started 2 years ago, with 7 police cruisers. We've got municipal equipment for people who are working for the town, that people expect to have drains cleared through the floods that we had this morning, and equipment being used to run out those dollars for that type of equipment, backhoes and street sweepers and the like. We have a virtualization program at Town Hall. People are actually afraid. I sent out a memo the first couple of weeks I was here, turn off your computer, save electricity. People were their computers off because you know why? They wouldn't get turned back on in the morning. So that's what happens when you're using 10 and 12 years old equipment. The life cycle has run out. So my approach is to keep the capital plan moving forward. And then, once again, we have to work it into the budget of fiscal 2013, which will come up in April. I'll submit that plan in December and go from there. It really is important to keep that capital planning and thinking going forward, because we've got, Mr. Chairman, tens of millions of dollars of capital planning that haven't been done for many, many years. Last time we bought police cruisers, Alan, was when? 2006?
2006, model year, and then 5, basically a little year and a half.
So the idea is to keep the program moving. Let's talk about it. We'll get the funding in a couple of different places going forward. We'll be listed in the motion. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Mrs. Segan?
Just a request, if we are going to get some numbers from the finance committee, can we get the total cost of these leases and the buyout amount that's included?
I believe that is going to be in your report.
And second question, if these are going to be part of the FY13 budget, why can't we wait until the springtime we discuss it with all the other budget items?
Madam Moderator? Mrs. Slater? Because I think it's important to keep the capital plan on the front burner. Okay? I think, once again, we're having stops and starts. I think people understand that we need some equipment. Much of it, by the way, I shouldn't say it. I'll say it this way. Much of its lifespan has already been ended. Where you have ambulances that go back to 10 or 12 years. People know when they get picked up in an ambulance that's 10 or 12 years old, they're not getting service properly in this town, in my opinion. So if we're moving forward with the plan, let's debate this. Let the town meeting members tell us what they think about these public safety items. Because you know what? In the past budgets that we submitted, in the past capital plans, they've been approved. So that's where we're coming from. And by the way, Sandy, we already submitted that information to the finance committee. So it's fully, the board of selectmen. So it's been fully costed out. We want to be in the business of making sure we have good quality equipment for the people doing their job. I remember one woman who stood up at town meeting and said that, she was proud that a cruiser came by her house that actually wasn't dilapidated and falling apart. We've had, Chief, help me out here. We've had instances where officers have had to stop some of their engagement because the equipment was failing. We've had situations where people just had a situation this afternoon where a person came off the highway and luckily was able to pull into the police station. You might have seen the lights. And we have, a defibrillator on site with the cruiser getting the job done and save the life this afternoon. So that's why it's important to keep talking about these items. They're important to our town. We've got to keep that high on the list of our agenda items. It's not just about, we're trying to catch up, but we're also trying to make sure that we have the right equipment in the right people's hands. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Any other questions on Article 1? Seeing none, Article 2 is repairs to the Wareham Free Library, and the motion will be to withdraw this article. The Board of Library Trustees, after discussions with capital planning, realized that there was a capital planning committee in place and a capital plan, and so they are willing to work with capital planning and go through the capital planning process instead of just putting a separate article for their needs on. So Article 2 will be withdrawn. Article 3 is a distribution of local options meals tax, which is an effort to allocate specifically how the meals tax will be used for capital planning. Mr. Slater, would you like to speak to the article?
The article is based on option of last fall's town meeting when it passed the meals tax option. There was a lot of discussion at that time by people at town meeting about the money being dedicated to capital planning, government, dedicated use. As Attorney Bowen explained to everybody, you can't do that with a tax. You have to go through a special act. This particular option here requires a special act which has to go before the House and Senate and Massachusetts to get approval. Will probably, if it passes, this would not go into effect in sometime fiscal year 2015 at the earliest, possibly 2014, depending on how it goes through. And the reason for the 50-50 split was because, again, we would express concern that the school department and the town would be able to share this. If we left it with no split, the problem would be because of the way our system is for capital planning, the town administrator basically makes a selection at the end of capital planning, and will make suggestions, town administrator makes it. So we thought it might be more town meeting because both sides are expressing concern that they have something, but we split it something 50-50.
Town council will speak to the issue.
Madam Moderator, thank you. Chairman Slavin is correct about my recommendation that something of this nature go the special legislation. I would suggest a possible amendment that someone might want to consider at town meeting. It's up to all of you, of course, but my call it practical concern is that if this passes town meeting, we don't know the actual date that the legislature will approve it and the governor will sign it. And my practical fear is that since it's likely that the revenue that now is coming in from this tax program is being built into your current budgets, I'm concerned about the possible effect of this special act becoming effective in the middle of the fiscal year, and it could possibly result in a situation where you have a deficit because all of a sudden an anticipated allocation of funds, in the direction of one of the school or town side would no longer exist, and that could have consequences for employees and purchases and what have you. My recommendation would be that in the process of making a motion, if someone wanted to offer an amendment, would be, as part of the petition for special legislation, actually include a specified effective date so that, for example, when you come into the April town meeting, which I assume would have the revenue built in, so that you don't pass a budget and then in the middle of the fiscal year have the legislature adopt it and all of a sudden the assumptions on which your budget will be based are thrown out of the whack. So as a suggestion, completely up to the voters, it might be worth putting in an effective date that post-dates the upcoming fiscal year so that you come into it clean, you have a revenue flow that you can count. With that being said, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions on Article 3? Okay, Article 4. Article 4 is to fund a collective bargaining agreement with the Wareham Dispatchers Union. And the motion will be to transfer the sum of $19,712 from the amount that was appropriated at the 2010 fall annual meeting to fund the contract. If you remember, at that meeting, we set aside funds in anticipation of contract negotiations being settled. And this is one of the contracts that has been settled. Article 30. Thank you. Article 30. Is there any questions on Article 4? Okay, Article 5 will be indefinitely postponed. That was a placeholder that was put in the event that the collective bargaining agreement with the Wareham Library employees was settled. That contract has not been settled, and it's not anticipated that it will be settled between now and town meeting. So Articles 5, 7, 8, and 9 all will be indefinitely postponed, and most likely we will bundle those at the beginning of the meeting and make a motion to indefinitely postpone those articles and get those right off of our agenda. Article 6 is to fund a collective bargaining agreement with Wareham Municipal Maintenance Department and the town custodians. And the motion would be to transfer the sum of money of $40,237 from the amount appropriated Article 3 at the 2010 fall town meeting. Again, this was money that was set aside at that meeting in anticipation that this agreement would be agreed upon. Any questions on Article 6? As I said, 7, 8, and 9 were placeholders. Those agreements have not been settled, so there will be no action on those articles. Article 10 is the water pollution control facility capital improvements. I will ask the town administrator to speak to this article. Mr. Hedger is out doing inspections tonight and cannot be here. And the motion would be to transfer the sum of $160,000 from the enterprise retained earnings reserve fund to fund these capital items. Mr. Andrews?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is like Article 1, where we identified areas of concern, not only for our employees, but equipment that is outdated and not sufficient. Item A, electrical and HVAC improvements. This was in my 2012 presentation for capital for the town. Because it is an enterprise fund, correct me if the town council is in chapter 44, section 53F and a half.
Correct.
Thank you. That we need to put in from the enterprise fund the amount of money to upgrade our electrical and heating, air conditioning, and ventilation systems at our facilities, that is a top priority. Second, to acquire a boom truck as we do work on these pump stations. If you haven't been inside one, it makes a great field trip if you're interested in seeing one. It is a very interesting experience. It's a very long building, deep building, and to get the equipment into the actual pump station, the boom truck that we currently have was basically the front wheels were coming up off the ground because it didn't have the capacity to lower the equipment down into the pump station itself, which is a hazard for our employees, which once again we want to make sure that they have the right tools to perform the jobs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any questions on Article 10? Seven?
Madam Moderator, you mentioned the enterprise fund. Are you talking about the sewer enterprise fund? So the money is coming out of the sewer enterprise fund to pay for these things and just authorize it. The money's already there.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 10? Article 11. Article 11 is the transfer of funds to transfer $79,000 from the Harbor Service Permit Reserve for Appropriations account to the Harbor Master Maintenance and Improvement account. And the motion would be to transfer $79,000 from the Harbor Service Permit Reserve for Appropriations account to the Harbor Master Maintenance and Improvement account. I have a Harbor Master here. Mr. Andrews?
Thank you. This is very similar. It is a fund that's established and it has funds available for improvements for the Harbor Master's operations, which include the purchase of diesel, four-wheel drive vehicle, one-ton pickup truck, additional navigational aids and hardware, including anchors, chains and shackles, other communications devices and equipment, scan sonars, and basically allowing you haven't been down to Bissett Park, we're going to be opening it up. The town just had with a grant from the state, close to $700,000. It will allow for additional floating docks at Bissett Park. And so these are capital items coming from the capital account for Harbor Master that already have the money in it. The idea is to get those capital items to the town meeting for a vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Any questions on Article 11? Article 12, actually Article 12, 13, and 14 are regular housekeeping articles that come before us every year from community preservation. It's my anticipation that I would ask that the body to assume consent that because these are annual housekeeping articles that we take them up and approve them together. Article 12 is to see if the town will vote to transfer from Community Preservation Fund FY 2012 estimated annual revenues a sum of money to the Community Preservation Fund reserves for future appropriation as follows. $70,200 for affordable housing reserve, $5,100 for administration, and $240,149 for the FY 2012 budgeted reserve. And again, this is a general housekeeping article. The motion would read almost identical to what was printed in the warrant. It's a transfer of funds to the appropriate accounts. Any questions on Article 12? Article 13 is another housekeeping article to transfer $55,000 into the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund from a previously approved but unexpended appropriation as follows. $5,000 appropriated for the affordable housing restriction approved under Article 45 of the Spring 2010, and $50,000 appropriated to hire a consultant for the Agawam Village reconstruction project. It's a housekeeping article, and CPC is returning the money to accounts for completed projects. Any questions on Article 13? Article 14 is their final housekeeping article. It's their yearly debt service payment for Bryant Farm, and the motion would be on the article very similar to the actual motion, the actual warrant article, which is to see if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Fund FY 2012 estimated annual revenue or any other available monies in the Community Preservation Fund under open space, the sum of $7,423 for the payment of debt service on the property known as Bryant Farm, and further to appropriate under historic preservation the sum of $104,128 for payment for debt service on the property known as 2 Montneo. These properties were purchased by town meeting in 2004, and these are our annual debt service payments. Any questions on Article 14? Article 15. This is another community preservation article to see if the town will vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund FY 2012 unallocated fund or any other available monies under the category of historic preservation, the sum of $163,000 for the replacement of 2 rubber roofs and the painting and protection of all exterior wooden surfaces on the Memorial Town Hall, consistent with existing historic preservation restrictions on the property. And the motion would be, as your warrant article describes, to appropriate in community preservation the sum of $163,000 for those projects. Any questions on Article 15? Article 16. To see if the town will vote to transfer under the category of open space from the FY 2012 estimated annual revenues or any other available monies, the sum of $50,000 to the Wareham Conservation Fund, established by town meeting under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C, which was Article 47 of the spring 1963 town meeting, for which the Conservation Commission may use as necessary, provided, however, that any purchases made with such funds shall be subject to the restrictions and requirements of the Community Preservation Act, General Law, Chapter 44B, and the article is designed to transfer sums of money into an established fund that meets the requirements of the Community Preservation Law. The Conservation Fund has been established since the spring of 1963, and it will allow the Conservation Commission to respond rapidly to issues that qualify under the Community Preservation Act. Any questions on Article 16? Article 17. Again, this is another article that comes before us routinely every year for community events. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Community Events Committee to expend a sum of money, funds drawn from 70% of the hotel motel tax and 40% from the parking meter fund to the Community Events Special Revenue Account. The funds will be solely used for continuing support and assistance of the community events, projects, activities, services, programs, and public improvements which are of mutual interest to residents and visitors of the town. Each year, the state reimburses the town of Wareham for the meals tax that's collected. Community events get 70% of what they collect from restaurants, food vendors, etc. And CEC gets 40% of the parking fees. And again, this is a routine article that comes before us every year. Any questions on Article 17? Article 18, earth removal regulations. This is a warrant article to amend the current earth removal bylaw so that the existing bylaw is replaced with the following language. The motion from the, I believe this was Clean Water Committee. They will be providing a handout at town meeting so that you will see exactly what the changes are. Mr. Senator, would you like to speak to the article?
The major purpose of this article is to protect Zone 2, which is a recharge area for our aquifer. It also clearly defines, which is going to be in addition, it will be on the handout, clearly defines the agricultural exemption, what it is and what it isn't. And there's also an additional change where if someone had a permit, an active permit in Zone 2, would allow the permit to expire before shutting it off. Those are the additional changes that were made based on the presentations of the Clean Water Committee, the various boards and commissions in the town to address some of their concerns. And the article has been vetted thoroughly with town council, and it will be presented at town meeting as such.
Thank you. There are handouts this evening that will clearly show you the wording and changes that were made to clarify that article with regards to agriculture, so I would suggest that you pick one up on the way out, you can pick it up on the way in. Any questions on Article 18? Article 19. Article 19 was an affordable housing initiative that was submitted by the Affordable Housing Trust. And after discussion with council and with administration, the motion on this article would be to pass over this article. The Wareham Affordable Housing Trust had hoped to create an alternative to body redevelopment by working with some accessory apartment regulations. After council reviewing the article, there were some legal issues with it, so the Affordable Housing Trust has decided to pass over this article and work with council over the winter months to come back with something for the spring. Article 20.
Claire, I'm sorry, could I go back to Article 18 and ask a question? It doesn't say who submitted this article.
This was submitted by the Board of Selectmen at the request of the Clean Water Committee.
And could I have the vote of the Clean Water Committee, please?
I'm sorry,
The vote of the Clean Water Committee.
Mr. Casella, do you have that vote?
Yes, the answer to the question was unanimous.
I'm sorry?
It was unanimous.
The vote was unanimous. Favorable, for favorable action. Article 20. Article 20 is a petition article. This was to provide improved checks and balances for when employees and officers of the town dispute their renewal or suspension. And I will ask Mr. Flaherty, the petitioner, to speak to the article. Be here? No? Okay. The explanation for this article that he submitted was that the recent public hearing of the former town accountant brought to light many deficiencies in the current public hearing process, which vests too much power in a single individual serving as judge and juror for their own decisions to remove or suspend town officers and employees. This warrant article seeks to remedy these deficiencies. In essence, this would be a change to our charter, although it is not a major change, it is a minor charge and it will require a third building. Into that.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. My question is, it doesn't call for any action. What would the mechanism be by which that would be done?
I believe the actual motion is in the printed warrant.
Okay.
It should be, if you pick up as you came in, if you look under Article 20, it's on page 27, and it clearly defines how this will all happen. I mean, I can certainly read it.
No, it's fine, thank you.
But it is clearly in the warrant article and will be up on the screen. Is that it?
Madam Moderator, with regards to this article, I believe that there's almost no one that's not covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Would the town administrator know offhand how many employees this would apply to? I'm not sure it applies to anybody right now.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm on the contract for the town, and at the time of this matter, the town accountant was on the contract for the town, so it was two people.
That happened on Treasure Club. Thank you.
Any other questions on Article 20? Article 21. Article 21 again is a petition article to see if the town of Wareham will acquire by purchase eminent domain or otherwise for a total consideration of $1,400,000 for the land and buildings thereon, known as the Bay Point Country Club. And I think Mr. Nancy is here if he would like to speak to the article and explain what the motion will be.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I don't have a problem with the microphone, so hopefully you can hear me. Bay Point's a funny thing in this town. We owned this golf course in 1980. And in 1980, we determined that this golf course should represent and create some financial and economic benefit for this town. So the town meeting put some covenants on the golf course and then transferred ownership of the course to what was then EDIC, we now call it C. With the instructions, if they sell this golf course, they find a developer to come in, buy the course for $1 million, and give us an in-conference center. Because at the time, that's what they believed would create economic growth in Wareham. Well, today, that's not what's necessary. But the town never realized economic growth. A guy named Perez came in, bought the golf course for $1 million, borrowed $15 million from Bay Bank, stuck $6 million in his pocket through the keys to Bay Bank. They took it back in '92. They sold it for $3.2 million. The guys that bought it from them sold it for $6.5 million. The guy that bought it from them just went bankrupt. All kinds of people have made all kinds of money with our golf course, and I think town council will tell you that basically we had a contract. The town body agreed to sell our golf course for a benefit which we never got. There have been many factions in this town over the year that wanted the golf course back, didn't want the golf course back. I was the FinCom chairman when all of this went down in '93. I never wanted to see us release the course to Baybank. I wanted us to take it back then, but instead we carved the golf course up. We took 7 acres out of the middle of the course and held it, gave it to CETA, and held it so that someday they could realize some financial gain and benefit for the town. That's never been realized. Finally, because we've had a failure, we have a value on the golf course that we can clearly establish. There have been several appraisals done recently, the largest of which I believe says the course is worth $1.4 to $1.5 million. Now, I put this article on the warrant so that some dialogue would start, because I was involved in a group of people that actually offered $1.9 million for the golf course. The bank told us straight. There was another group in the area that offered $2.1 million for the golf course. The bank told them straight. And lo and behold, I figured that if we put this on here and the bank realized that the town would consider taking the golf course back, that maybe they get more reasonable and understand that the town itself has a vested interest in what happens in that golf course. So lo and behold, the price of the golf course has now come down to 1.7. I guess a week ago they showed up at a selectmen's meeting and said they had an offer. One of the original covenants from the 1980 town meeting activity was that every time the golf course gets sold, the town has a right of first refusal. So I guess the selectmen are looking at that right now. But I want to further study this until April and appoint a committee, or have you appoint a committee, so that we as a town can look at this and make a decision as to whether or not we want this golf course back. And what does it mean for us? Understand that if we had developed this golf course, gotten something in that golf course, it would have been generating $300,000 to $400,000 a year or more in tax revenue for this town. We have 30 years of missing that much money on an annual basis. We can't afford, with the budget problems we have, to continue to let those opportunities slip by. So I think that looking at this as a committee, coming back to town meeting in April, and making a determination based on facts and empirical evidence and data, and finding out what people really want, and coming back and asking people, we think we should take the golf course because it does this for us, or, you know what, we should wash our hands of it and let it be gone and be done with it in the town forever. But we can put some closure to the golf course, and we can take it back, and if we do, we can drive where the golf course goes and what happens here. Now, people would say that we don't have $1.7 million. I'm not suggesting that we raise or appropriate $1.7 million. I'm suggesting there are a couple of groups of people out there that are willing to come in and put that money up for the town. So if that in fact is the case, and we meet and discuss this throughout the winter, do you think the town meeting in April, if they could get the golf course back for free, would vote to take that golf course? And that's really what I would like to investigate going through the winter. It would take the participation of the Board of Selectmen. There'd be some negotiations that would have to be done. But I think a viable plan can come forward from this if we choose to do it. However, taking affirmative action on this right now while the Selectmen are considering their option to right of first refusal on legitimate offices before them would kind of be conflicting. So putting it off until April made sense to me. Does that make sense?
Mr. Nancy, would you be able to get that motion to us so that we have it in the rest of town meeting?
So happens. I found it in my pocket.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions on Article 21?
I have a question as to how many acres are still available up there, including the course.
The question is how many acres are still available?
How many acres are we talking?
150.
150 acres.
Seriously, 150 acres.
150.
150 acres open space.
CPC is open space.
Well, that, again, things we could look at if we went forward. However,
That's a really nice parcel.
it is, but there has, I understand that, I've used this term a lot. Bay Point is an economic engine. It's the only golf course in this part of New England that's located that's publicly, that's available and open to the public, and it's located in a resort within walking distance to a beach. We have never leveraged that for economic growth. If the right kind of development happens at Bay Point, you will see age-restricted, over 55 retirement homes where people come in, pay their taxes. You'll see 50 or 100 jobs created because of it, and you'll see tourism increase because of the marketing. And there is a function business there. That function business, I came to town meeting a couple times over the last couple of years to get the zoning part of this puzzle put in place. When I took over, I ran Bay Point for a very small period, for 6 months, trying to get all of this stuff done. When I took that over, the function business did $30,000 in business the year before I took it over. Within 9 months of the time that I rehabbed that building, it did $160,000 in business, and it was on target to do $350,000 worth of business in the first 28 months. So that is a viable business. People want to come to this area. They want to get married and they want to use that function business. That is a $700,000 to $1 million business, providing it's on a resort quality golf course. But all of these things can't happen unless there's some development, some benefit to the town. So we have to find a mix that keeps maybe 80 or 90 acres of open space, gives us some non-impacting, non-infrastructure impacting growth and economic growth, creates some jobs, tax revenue, a draw for citizens. That is a unique parcel of land in this town, and we have never realized the benefit from it. So hopefully you can support my article.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Article 22, again, this is a petition article to require that all information distributed at town meeting include the name of the person, group, company, or organization on the information to be distributed. Mr. Savage, I believe that you're, as a petitioner, would like to speak to this?
Well, yes, I was the lucky person to put my name down first, so I think it's all the purpose of this is hopefully a number of people we've talked to all suggest that the items that are passed out at town meeting should have the name of the author on it. People shouldn't be afraid to put their name on this thing and identify who's putting this out and the accuracy of these things. We hope that the individuals involved will have the fortitude to identify themselves. But as far as the town meeting is concerned, we're going to move for indefinite postponement.
Okay, that takes us through all of our articles. I think by the view that we're going to be able to move for indefinite postponement or postpone, we'll shorten 20 articles down to about 14 or 15. And hopefully we can stay on target with our discussions. We can move right along and get through this town meeting quickly and not get into Halloween. So I'm hoping that I want to thank you for coming tonight and taking us home. Come prepared for, to speak to the articles, but again, if you can stay to the subject matter of the warrant articles, that would be really helpful. We're really trying harder to make this a better process, to make it a better town meeting, and